Why, hello there, Nice Dare here. I hope this video finds you very well, and I thank you very, very much for tuning in today. And might I say, you are looking perfectly excellent. Quite a good day. Did you do something different with your hair? I don't know, but it's nice. What do we got? We got a review here of this Bestech Supernova. This one is a long time coming. I had a little bit of an issue with this. However, Bestech made it right, and I'm going to shout them out for that. So, good on them. We'll get to that in a moment. But this is a pretty small knife, premium knife on the Bestech, or, well, any scale. It's more expensive than a budget knife. Let's jump into specs. As always, this is a full review. There will be timestamps down below if you care to skip over, the specs, or you want to skip to a certain spot. Down there, I'll hopefully make your life a little more convenient. Also, if you care to like and subscribe and help me on my way to 1,000 subs, I'd greatly appreciate it. Some channels just grow faster. I don't know. What am I doing wrong? Who knows? Maybe nothing. But I'll get the traction. It's working. It's coming. And I greatly appreciate everyone who checks out the channel and sticks around and maybe comes back for another one. At the end of the video, there's going to be some videos that pop up and for other stuff on the channel, or like a playlist for this particular review playlist. Click on that. Watch something else. Who knows? We're having a good time, hopefully. And if you're not, let me know. Or give me a thumbs down. I don't know. That's fine, too. I understand. Let's get into specs proper here. We have 7 and about an eighth overall length. You have 3 inches and about an eighth. So this should come down to a pretty darn close to, really, really quite close to 4 inches overall. Pretty decent and clean ratios there, and you're actually getting a little more blade than handle. I mean, it's usually like 1 inch difference, but you're getting a little bit less there. So they've got this thing dialed in pretty decently as far as blade to handle ratio, if I do say so myself. Comparisons to our full-size Conspirator and small Elementum. As you can see, this is a small knife. Unequivocally, it's very much like an Elementum in general size, grip length, everything. Speaking of grip length, let's go to 2 AA batteries and see that you have about 1 2/3, maybe even a little bit less than that for 2 AA batteries. You have big hands. I mean, small knives in general probably aren't your jam, but just note that if you can get your hands on an Elementum, you probably won't have too much trouble here. But it is a small knife. Hardware check. I believe this is a T8. Yes, it is. We have T8 pivot and T6 body screws. Now, there are only, technically, you really only have to interface with the pivot and 1 body screw. They are T6. I have taken this apart. They did not give me any problems whatsoever. In fact, I have a T6 bit right here. And they're actually quite deeply, I mean, that felt pretty good. Like, I didn't feel any issue with the T6. Now, do I want to go off on this tangent? Yes. We're doing it right now. This is not a captured pivot. And that was my problem with this knife originally. When I got it, I found out quickly that it was not a captured pivot. You have to use 2 bits on both sides to do this. This thing will free spin on you. It doesn't seem to want to do it too badly, but it will do it. Like, you can get a little bit of traction, but yeah, it's not captured. And basically what happened was, I removed the screw from one side, and I saw that there was a lot. When I first got this knife, there was a lot of, I don't know if it was Loctite or thread locker or whatever, but it was gunked up. The pivot was gunked up. It had thread locker and stuff on it. So someone put a little bit too much in there, and it spilled out. And so I was trying to take the pivot completely apart and was going to clean the whole thing out. What ended up happening was one side of the pivot backed out a little bit and then locked up. No matter what I did, vise, cranking on it, heating it, nothing. It was locked. So basically what ended up happening is I had a pivot that was slightly backed out on one side, and could never be, and even when it was fully tightened down on this side would not move, and it wouldn't tighten. So basically, the knife was just yeah, and it wouldn't go back apart from back together. Beyond that, I reached out to Bestech. They said this is an older model, so they didn't have too much lying around, but they did have an old pivot assembly lying around, and they promptly sent it to me. Full new pivot. It slotted in. It tightened down. No problem. There was no Loctite in it. I dialed it in perfectly, and I've had no problem since. In fact, it hasn't even backed out a little bit. That's usually a benefit of the non-captured pivot. They don't tend to back out because the whole thing rotates a little bit. So while there was an issue, not minor, it was pretty substantial. The knife was not functional after that issue showed its face. And it needed to, it was like inevitable because there was so much gunk in there, it was messing with the action. However, Bestech quickly and pleasantly made it right and sent me a new pivot. So, good on them. Just know that's a thing. Let's get back to specs because I've wasted enough time on that little tangent. And let us get weight on the old Supernova here. 3.31 ounces, very close to an ounce an inch, which is actually really impressive for, I mean, not only is this full titanium scales, but the bolsters here and the clip are zirconium. So that's actually kind of impressive that they managed to get this to almost an ounce an inch. It's a little bit over, or weight-wise, but it's close enough that I'm pleasantly surprised, especially if you know anything about zirconium, it tends to add some weight. And our final spec. Really? You're just going to fight with me each time today. Okay. Handle thickness, it is contoured. You have 513 thousandths, a little tiny bit over half an inch. With the clip, you have 669 thousandths, not too bad. Blade stock at its thickest, I think it's back here, 120 thousandths. And behind the edge, now I will say they have a very, very tiny bevel on this thing. So I don't know if it's just a high edge angle or what, but let's see what it actually is hitting at. Yeah, it's going to be a real pain in the butt to get behind that edge. Okay. That's about 10 thousandths. However, like I said, this is a very tiny bevel. My guess is they have a pretty steep edge angle on this thing. It is sharp. It cuts pretty well. Don't mess up my knife. But if you lay that edge back a little bit, which you may want to do. Did that even leave a mark? Tiny bit. It might actually come out, though. It's pretty unnoticeable, I think. Oh, no. There it is right there. Yeah, fool. Whatever. I use this thing. I've actually been carrying it and using it a bit more than some knives. I don't know why. Just after getting it fixed, it just sort of felt right. But, yeah. Very small edge bevel. Very thin behind the edge. But it might be partially due to the fact that they have a pretty high angle on there. So take that with a grain of salt. It does feel like it stays reasonably thin. Like you're going to get some life out of it. Let's just put it that way. It's decently executed. All right. I think that brings us to the end of our specs, I believe. Yeah, sure. Took long enough, right? All right. Let's just talk about this knife. M390 blade steel. This one has been out for a while. This is not a brand new Bestech. I don't think it was ever like the most popular of their models, but I got it on a sale for $99 when it was on sale, which is kind of crazy considering, well, it's not $99 normally. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but yeah, this is totally worth $99. But you got a satin on the blade. You've got horizontal satin on flats, and the swedge, again, vertical. You have a plunge grind that doesn't go too close to the edge. You have a decent amount of life there. There is the tiniest bit of, I don't know if it's recurve or just that they didn't sharpen this one quite as low. I don't know if you're even going to be able to notice it. There's a tiny bit of arch right there. That'll go away instantly. You won't even have to sharpen this differently. It's mostly just because this point is a little bit lower than the rest of the edge. So I don't think that's really going to affect anything. But, I mean, the plunge is about as good as you can ask. You have a decent amount of life. Stop pin hits, you know, it's got a flipper tab, so the stopper pin hits on the flipper, so you can cut that joil in if you ever need to. I think you'll get a decent amount of life out of this. They did put the Bestech logo down here on the bevel. I don't like seeing that. I would prefer it up there. I'd also prefer not to see the name and just have that logo right there, right up there. Nice and small, right with the M390. Could it be a little bit better? Sure. Is this the most intrusive one you've ever seen, or I've ever seen? Probably not. No big deal. There is, it is a full titanium scale with cutouts for these bolsters, which, as I said, on this one is zirconium. The entire thing has an orange peel texture, which is quite nice. It is contoured. It is pretty darn nice and excellent. I'll be honest with you, that little dot is now bugging the crap out of me. I had to do that, right? Hopefully it'll buff out or something like that. I don't know. Whatever. Getting back to it. There is a decent amount of weight reduction. As I said, the weight on this thing for its size is actually really good for having as much titanium and actual zirconium on there as it does, which is kind of nice, or kind of impressive, in fact, even if it is small. Also, the bolsters here are held on by screws from the inside, so you don't see anything. There, you got extra screws in them right about here, and of course the pivot is also holding it down. You have a full back spacer with a lanyard hole. I kind of wish that wasn't there. I kind of wish the knife just continued, but it is there for those who want it and care. You have liner lock access, which doesn't look very good, yet it works pretty darn well. It's one of those ones where it just sort of just funnels you right where you need to be. You're coming out a little bit diagonal, but for the most part, the access is pretty solid, despite that it doesn't seem like it should be. They've given you a nice big chamfer down there, and honestly, it works. It is on bearings, and as you can see, it's not the smoothest knife. Like, it doesn't feel like the ultra premium or some of the modern Bestechs. Like I said, this is a bit older. You can feel the detent ball on the blade just a little bit, like right there. So it's not the smoothest, but I mean, at the same time, it's a light shake shut, and it's hardly bad, right? I just will say that some of the more modern Bestechs, like, say, this Wet Nelly here, do feel, in my opinion, a bit better. So they may have improved a little bit since this thing came out a couple years ago, a number of years ago at this point. Again, I don't even know how long at this point. There's a little bit of a poon there up on this back. The edges are chamfered nicely, and you've got this big chamfer down here, which actually works pretty darn well. It adds a nice thing for you to grip into, so you don't hit on too hard of an angle. Very comfortable. I will say that the one downside is the clip, and the back end of this knife is kind of the annoyance. The clip, first of all, it's zirconium. I don't like zirconium clips. Zirconium does not flex. It does not have the memory that like titanium does to retake position. Zirconium bends out and stays bent out. So it's already started to tap a little bit. But also the clip, it's just the shape of it, the way they've done the rise, the amount of... It's just not the greatest shape. It's okay, it works, but I don't like the material because it doesn't have the flex. I don't like the shape of the clip for the most part, and fortunately they did give us a decent amount of softening and rounding on there, but they could have probably went a little bit further, so you do feel the clip. But it's also not super deep carry. It's sort of medium depth, not too terrible. It's not the worst, example, but it's not great. I wish this was just plain titanium and maybe rounded a little bit more, or even just a tiny bit wider and rounded, so it, you know, just felt, I mean, it's comfortable. I'm not upset about this. But I do feel like I can't adjust quite around as much as I want to be able to just move around on the back end of this thing without really feeling the clip. So that's kind of where I sit on that. The other thing is this lanyard hole. The lanyard hole itself is not a problem, but the way they did the cutout here are very abrupt changes in angles. Like, this is not sharp, but it's definitely a hard angle. And for such a small knife, you kind of grip into that area, right? So sometimes when I'm moving around on this thing, I can kind of feel that. Like right there, I can kind of feel this. Not terrible. Again, like I said, it is not by any means what I would call uncomfortable, but it is not as perfect as maybe as it could be. I can get a good, comfortable grip, and I can hold on to this thing no problem. You're not going to be doing heavy-duty tasks, so it's not like you have to hammer grip this thing or anything like that, but it's fine. I wouldn't have minded seeing a few things done slightly differently. Oh, and the liner is actually inset into the titanium, as you can see. It is centered. It came back to center. No problem whatsoever. I think that's centered. Are you centered today? You look centered. I'm going to say yes. There is no play with the new pivot in there. Like I said, it's slotted right in, no problem. This is a flipper-only knife, and it is a very, very low-profile flipper. You kind of want to go in front of it. In fact, that's why it has this continued sort of curvature in the front. You kind of just sit there and you just pull. It takes a little bit of getting used to because it doesn't have a lot of traction, so you can definitely slip off of it until you really just realize it's sort of like it's almost like a forward angled light switch. Or not light switch, sorry, button press. The push button kind of thing, instead of going up from here and pushing down. You can do it, but you just sort of do the same thing there, which turns it into a sort of a push button light switch kind of combo, actually. As you can see, it works well, it cuts well, it's a nice knife. I don't think I would have bought it at its original full price. I'll be honest. It's not doing anything like spectacularly enough, or, I mean, yes, the zirconium is quite interesting for the price point. We'll get to that in a second, but it wasn't until I saw it on sale for $99 and I was like, okay, that's happening. Normally these things are, I believe they're around $240. There is two variants. The orange peel is very nice. It's kind of a heavy eggshell kind of orange peel. There's bronze and this, and, well, there's two variants. Silver and bronze, basically. There is a third variant. It has Timascus clip and big old bolsters and everything like that, and maybe the backspacer. I'm not 100% sure. That thing's up at like $500. Just don't buy that. Just don't buy it. I mean, it's cool. Timascus is nice. It looks like it's probably pretty decently, but this is a $200 to $250 knife all day. I don't think adding the Timascus should bring it up to that, like, almost $500 range. No. Maybe if they had brought it to like $380, there would have been an argument to say, hey, that's kind of a decent upgrade. And the clip might work a little bit better on the Timascus one, if the clip is, in fact, Timascus. I didn't even bother looking once I saw the price point. But if you can get these on sale, yeah, it's a slim, nice, sort of elegant, refined little knife. It would be more refined if that was up there and kind of just, or gone completely, let's be honest. That would make it much more refined, much cleaner. That is a better look. I will beat this into the ground in every single video, but overall, it's a nice knife. You may be able to find it on sale because it has been around for a while. Just be aware that it does have a few little quirks with the clip and the non-captured pivot. However, can I say it's not recommendable? No. Even at $240, what you're actually getting here, small or not, the zirconium and everything like that, and the execution fit is, like, the execution of most of it is really, really smart. They've made a little bit of strange decisions in a couple areas, but it's not enough for me to be like, oh no, makes it a bad knife. It's worthwhile if you want something small, something surprisingly light for the materials. You could definitely go much more wrong with other options. There are certainly things out there that would be a problem, but maybe don't buy the premium one, and maybe wait for a sale. Other than that, the Supernova is a good knife, and once again, thank you to Bestech for getting me out a new pivot. And that's the other problem with zirconium. Zirconium is soft, and it's going to take those little nicks and dents a little bit more regularly, even if it does look good. I like polished zirconium, so that's my thing. But you don't usually find that unless you're paying a lot more for a knife. However, all in all, it's good. I'm done. So thanks for watching. Check out some other stuff on the video, like and subscribe. You know how it goes. Have a great day, and just continue on. See you later.